Christmas ought to have been the ideal opportunity to get to know the TT RS a little better, but in recollection it feels like I spent most of the time fussing with settings and screens and other peripheral nonsense.
Some of this fumbling was inevitable, of course. Like any other expensive German car, the RS is only slightly less adjustable than a Tempur mattress.
Long gone are the days when getting the seat and steering wheel in the right place was the bulk of the job.
I spend about 1,000,000 times longer simply concerning myself with whether I want the seat to default to either the first or second of its 3 heat settings.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
In the TT, Audi's devotion to its virtual cockpit system is total.
The decision to sacrifice the additional pop-up screen on the center stack, as you'd find in the current RS3, is mostly about accommodating the swoopy dashboard and its trademark vents. And as good as the instrument cluster base 12.3-inch display is, it does take some getting used to, especially if you've become accustomed to fiddling with the infotainment system by means of the dial that lies beneath your left elbow.
I suspect the omnipresence of such controllers is the reason why Ingolstadt has retained one, because it is almost redundant on the TT, the steering wheel mounted buttons offering all the functionality you really need.
The upshot is that you very rarely find your eyeballs moving further south than the middle of the steering wheel, which is plainly to the benefit of your general road awareness. It does, however, mean that you rather obsess about what's on the screen in front of you.
Audi will let you choose between 2 basic displays, one that relegates the rev counter and speedometer in favor of the infotainment system, and one that puts an oversized rev counter front and center and sidelines any other media to the left-hand portion of the screen.
The latter seems the more natural choice for the RS, but selecting it means putting up with 2 dials that incessantly chart the engine's power and torque output as a roving percentage.
As ever, this is the kind of readout that makes interesting viewing for about a nanosecond, and thereafter serves only as a distraction.
And unlike the left side, which allows you to scroll through the available options, the right is as immutable as a teletext page.
The only solution is to have a destination constantly running on the sat-nav, which replaces both meters with on-screen directions, but when the destination is mostly my folks' house on Christmas Day, this is far too tedious. So instead I've spent the last few weeks staring at a real-time graph of what my right foot is doing.
On top of all this, there's the inevitable tinkering with the car's drive modes to be indulged.
In the main, the preset comfort setting is going to be shouldering most of the everyday burden, partly because the 5-pot is fiery no matter what, but mostly because the RS is easily taught enough to make its more aggressive suspensions setting all but redundant on UK roads.
The same reasoning rather takes the edge off the all-guns blazing dynamic mode, leading to an ongoing fuss over which bits best fit individual for when you're in the mood. Right now, I've opted for auto for the engine and gearbox, kept the suspension in comfort and gone with dynamic for the steering, quattro system and sound.
It was the second-generation model, already equipped with the 2.5-liter 5-cylinder engine but based on the older, weightier, stuffier PQ35 platform.
It was fast, of course, and very well made and easy on the eye.
Yet it was acutely unrewarding to drive, or so we all thought, and said so in the contemporary road test.
Steve, though, despite being endowed with the kind of God-given talent that had no earthly need for Quattro's help, loved it, and repeatedly said so in print.
This was all mildly embarrassing at the time, and although it changed no one's mind about the car in question, it did always leaving me wondering what the quickest TT was actually like to live with over an extended period.
Naturally, the RS in question is a generation removed from Sutter's car, based on the MQB platform and endowed now with a preposterous output that qualifies it as a supercar warrior.
Nevertheless, my early encounters with the model, on the international launch, in fact, have followed a familiar pattern. My respect for and appreciation of its extraordinary straight-line gusto are slowly superseded by indifference for what it does when not heading very quickly for the horizon's vanishing point.
Consequently, the most pressing question was not whether I'd like the car in 6 months, but whether I'd be sick of it within 6 minutes.
I needn't have worried.
If there's one thing you can count on, it's Ingolstadt's gift for shrouding you in the haze of expensively wrought contentment.
I didn't spec our car, we let Audi UK's experts do that for us, but I can't imagine needing anything more from the cabin. The heated super sport seats are clad in leather and are excellent, and there isn't a surface or switch in the RS that doesn't groan with perceived quality.
The kit list is decent without being precisely generous, the standout feature being the standard inclusion of both MMI Navigation Plus and Audi's virtual cockpit system, which means there's no center console screen to become distracted by at all.